It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome. It's Jill on Money, and we are delighted that you are joining us here in the heat and the heart of November. Hope you are having a really terrific weekend. This is the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. We're broadcasting from the Capital One Bank virtual studios. Capital One, this is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? What's in your wallet indeed? It's been pretty bad news week just in general. Too much virus, too much socializing, too much resistance to locking down. I've actually started to decide to do different things during lockdown. It goes in phases. I don't know about you, Mark, but you're too busy just taking care of your son. For me, trying to do something different every so often. So the thing that I believe I have now actually captured, the ability to do my own hair and make myself camera ready for TV. Now, I know you think that that's a silly thing, but when you go on television, the first thing my mother does is tell me about my hair. So the last two TV segments I've done them from my apartment in New York City, and I did my own hair. And Mark, did you think the hair looked okay? I thought it was pretty decent, right? Oh, what do you know? He says, it looks fine to me. It was really funny. The first segment, we were playing around with the lighting. The second segment, which you can go to the website, just go to jillonmoney.com and click on the watch tab. When I did the second segment, the lighting looked so much better because we played with some stuff. So anyway, these are little minor things because I really believe that I'm going to be under lockdown and not able to go into a studio anytime soon. And so that's what I got. And, I had a little bit of a scare myself, just exposed to somebody who was positive, and I had to do a 14-day quarantine and get tested and all that. And I was negative. And it was enough to remind me that, my God, this is just such scary stuff and we have to pay attention. Now, maybe what you'll do during your lockdown is focus on your money. Maybe it will be now you take the time and the energy to say, hey, you know what? I am going to finally send Jill and Mark a message because I have a financial question. Maybe this is it. And if you think that this little tiny step is enough, I'm going to nudge you a tiny bit, just do this one thing, send us an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Really? Very easy. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And if you're on the website at jillonmoney.com, we've got a contact button there. So just click it and we will get your mail. All right. Megan writes that she had contacted us earlier this year and appreciated our advice on retirement savings. And she says, I was hoping you'd be willing to offer some more guidance. Okay, here we go. My employer is offering a new health insurance option that includes a health savings account, or an HSA. I love these, by the way. Megan is 33. Medical expenses are low. However, I have a few congenital dental issues and I might need some implants. Oh my God, I received a recent estimate of about $30,000, not including some needed orthodontic work. Oh, brother. HSA seems like a good option to save for these expenses. However, it's unpredictable when I would need the implants, which makes planning difficult. After looking over the information on the HSA, which is offered through Fidelity, I do have a few questions. How do you decide when to invest money you have saved in an HSA? I assume I wouldn't want to invest any of the money since I could need it within the next 10 years. I could also not need the money within the next 10 years. Ooh, I would appreciate any advice. I do have a safety net of 1 year of living expenses, and for retirement, I save a little over 18% of my income in a 401k and a Roth IRA, not including the 6% employer match. So I think I'm okay. Thanks, Jill. Okay, Megan. So usually what happens is, when you have a health savings account, there's a different account associated with it, which is called a high deductible health plan, HDHP. Now, a high deductible health plan is what it sounds like. It is the ability to actually lower your premium costs month to month. However, it actually means that you have a higher deductible. So the high deductible health plan is paired with a health savings account. And the health savings account allows you to put money away pre-tax. And that money, if it's used for the qualifying expenses, which is usually healthcare expenses that are not reimbursed, then you can pull the money out, and that money is actually pulled out without any taxation. Now, the difference, a lot of people confuse the HSA with flexible spending accounts. It's not that, okay? And in fact, when you think about these two kinds of plans, I often will say that they are very good for people who are young and healthy like you are, or someone who's also like you, which is someone who thinks there's going to be some big costs that are coming up in the future and you want to save for that. Here's the deal. The maximum you can put into a health savings account is $3,600. That's for next year. So the first thing is you would put that money away slowly but surely. And if you don't know when you're actually going to need it, maybe you do a little bit of saving outside of it, a little bit of saving inside of it. The other thing about the investing part is that you really have to be conservative, because 10 years, I mean, I don't even know if you're going to need it in 5 years. So it would have to be a very measured approach, somewhat conservative, I think. So if you've got an HSA, for most people, I would always say, like, balanced is about as risky as I want to get. And if you are thinking that you're going to need the money sooner rather than later, then you'd really make it a much lower risk type of investment account. For everyone else listening, by the way, so, one of the things I like about HSAs is they can be really good choices if you're near retirement, because you can put money in this HSA and you don't have to use it. You can take it with you. So you'll take the account with you. You have the HSA. So even if you are using Medicare 10, 12 years later, you could use the money in the HSA to pay for unreimbursed costs. So I think that's great. Also, by the way, for this year, the IRS made some changes for high deductible plans. It gives you a little more flexibility. You can go to the website, to jillonmoney.com, and you can read about this stuff in my article about open enrollment. I guess I should call it a post, Mark. I called it an article, which makes me sound very old. Anyway, I hope that helps, Megan. If I'm missing anything, let me know. I guess it really is incumbent upon you to try to figure out when you think you're really going to try to do this. I understand not wanting to kind of rush into it, especially amid COVID. On the other hand, maybe even waiting is a good idea, because maybe some of the technology improves. Who knows? Them's is my 2 cents about high deductible health plans and HSAs. Okay. You are listening to Jill on Money, and during the break, why don't you go to our website, jillonmoney.com, and subscribe to our sister broadcast. It's a podcast, and it's called Jill on Money. Just go to the website, go to jillonmoney.com. It's right on the front door, and subscribe and get a little bit more of Jill and Mark 7 days a week. How about that? All right, Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you haven't noticed, we have been bringing some more of your voices onto this broadcast. If you'd like to join us, send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. That's what Indira did. She's calling from New York. Hi, Indira. How can we help you out?
Sure, thank you. Well, I'm age 61, single, and no dependents, living at home. I've been working for a Fortune 500 company for the past 36 years, and unfortunately, I was laid off in June. There was a great severance package, and I was eligible to retire at that time. When I left this company, I left my 401k with them. I did not roll it over. and I have about 924,000 in that 401k. I then started as a contractor full-time in another company, and I opened a brand new 401k with them. And presently there's $3,000 in that 401k. The new company does not match a 401k, and I'm contributing 15% of my salary into that.
Great. This all is fantastic. I'm so glad you got. I mean, it's amazing because It's so great to hear that there's a 60-year-old person who gets laid off who can then keep working. It's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you. So my main question is, should I take some more risk in one or both of my 401ks, because I hope to retire in another 2 years, and longevity runs in my family, and I know that these accounts need to keep growing, hopefully another 30 years or more. And I usually tend to be on the middle of the road side for risk. And I'm wondering, maybe I should take a little bit more risk on one or both.
Okay, let me ask a couple of questions. The old 401k, where is that held? What investment company is the 401k held with?
The old one is with Fidelity, and it's in a target retirement fund of 2030.
Okay, got it. And the new one?
The new one is with Fidelity also, and that's in a target date fund of 2025.
Okay, so you like the target date funds for ease of management. You don't want to start going into building up portfolio and going into like, I want this and this fund, and that you like the structure of a target date fund? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Will you be entitled to any other income when you do retire in a couple of years? So not Social Security, but any pension?
Yes, I'll be receiving a pension starting January 1st of next year for $2,000 per month for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's great.
Yes.
And what about your Social Security? Do you have an estimate of what you might receive at your full retirement age?
At full retirement age, I don't remember the estimate, and that's because my goal is to take it at 70.
We'll do the 70. How much at 70?
70 is $3,200 a month.
Okay. So forgetting about the gap between when you retire and age 70 for a second, if you looked at 3,200 plus your pension of $2,000 a month, how does that seem in terms of your house, your needs for your expenses? Like, is this $5,200 a month? Is that a lot? Is it a little? Is it, or do we need more money from the portfolio itself?
I think in the first few years of retirement, I'll probably be needing more because I'm planning to relocate, and I might have maybe two rental homes. And I hope to do a lot of traveling in my early retirement years. I think later on, maybe I'll slow down a bit.
Yeah, like when you're 90, maybe. Sounds like you got with that longevity. I mean, what are we going to do, right?
True.
Okay. So right now, what are the expenses that you would think about right now in terms of that 63 to 70? How much a year do we have to pull out of your accounts to get you, so you'll have 2,000 a month coming in. But then there's this 7-year period where we got to obviously make sure that we get some money to you. So tell me a little bit more about what your plan would be to fund those gap years.
I was thinking that I would pull from one of my 401ks or my IRA or sell stock in the gap years.
Wait a second. What is the other IRA? How much is in there?
176,000.
Okay. And is there any money in non-retirement accounts right now?
No.
Did you say you were going to downsize? Or are you going to, what's, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to downsize. I'm hoping to sell my house next year. And after paying off the mortgage, I hope and pray I will pocket about 100,000.
Okay. So the first thing I would say is that 100,000 is probably the best source of funding going forward for those gap years, because it's money that's already been taxed, right? So it will be there for you. I guess the other question I have, any other just general, either investment accounts, cash reserves, CDs, anything that's non-retirement that you haven't accounted for yet?
Yes. And this is something I don't wish to happen soon. At the passing of my mother, I expect to inherit about 100,000 from the sale of her condo.
Okay. But yeah, that does. I mean, I wouldn't bet on that either, right? Because you never know, right? Here's what I'm thinking. First of all, I just happened to look up the Fidelity Target Fund of the Freedom 2030 Fund, and it has plenty of risk in it. I mean, it is about a 70-30 fund, meaning 70% in stocks. It's a little bit tilted more towards domestic than international, but it ends up being 70% stocks and 30% bonds. That's plenty. I would not take more risk than that if I were you. I really wouldn't. Okay. And in fact, even in the new 401k, I'm not even sure, you don't need to take more risk. I don't think that that's the issue. So in fact, I'd probably back off on that and make that a 2030 fund as well.
Oh,
But let me ask you another question. You're maxing out this new 401k, right? Do you have a Roth 401k option?
I don't know.
That would be something I would look into. How much are you earning with in the new gig?
About 64,000 a year, 63,000 a year.
That 63, that covers your needs right now, right?
Oh, yes, more than enough.
I'm going to make a crazy suggestion. You might think it is crazy, but I think it's probably right. All right. I would not be so hell bent on putting so much money into your new 401k. I would be much more interested that while you are in the 22% tax bracket or so, which is where you are right now, that I would be paying the tax that's due on my money. And I really think you need to beef up your non-retirement assets. And that means I want you to have a bigger emergency reserve fund. It means that I want you to start planning for those gap years. And to do that, it's better for you right now to take that money, get the money in your hands, put it into something boring, fine, I don't really care. But I am concerned that if you don't have the ability to float those 7 years, you're going to invade these retirement accounts that need to be taxed when you pull the money out. There is going to be a tax burden. And it's not as if I don't think your tax bracket's going down substantially, because you're going to have the pension and you're going to then start pulling money out of your accounts. So I'm a little bit, I'm at sixes and sevens because I know you want to try to put more money away for retirement. I guess I'm suggesting that if you could put the money away and fund those years, that 63 to 70, that would probably make me more comfortable for you. It has nothing to do, the risk in the portfolio is not something I think you need to worry about. You don't have to ratchet up the risk. It's the other direction. It's that I need you to get more liquid. And if you could get more liquid before you retire, it's all the better. And of course, I would be remiss in not saying that every year you work, your retirement picture looks better. So, one more, if you say, oh, I'm going to retire at 63, and then you're like, hey, you know what? I'm having fun, or I'm only doing, I'm working enough so that I can travel and not pull any money out of my portfolio. That would be great too. So I think you're in great shape. I really do. But I think that it's those gap years that will put some pressure on you. And I would not increase your risk right now.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We'll get back to more of your questions in just a minute. How about this? During the break, go to the website, jillonmoney.com, and you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you are noodling around in your brain trying to figure out what the heck are you going to be doing for the year-end money moves that are important, boy, I've got great news for you. Because I am crazy and I wake up really early many mornings, I have an exhaustive post on the Jill on Money website, and you can check it out. There are some very specific things that are going on right now, year-end, around the CARES Act, Because, unless we have a new stimulus plan anytime soon, it may be that some of the provisions of the CARES Act are actually going to expire at the end of this year. So check it out. Go to jillonmoney.com, click the read column there, and you'll see very easily, you'll see it identified as such, year-end money moves amid COVID. Check it out. And if that jogs your mind or you need to know some more, we will be having a guest who will help us walk you through some of the year-end money moves to make. Some of them are just tried and true, some of the things that we have done year after year, but this is a particularly strange year when it comes to your money. So with that said, let us do some more of your emails. Okay. Julie writes, I'm newly married just over a year. Wow. 54 years old, husband is 57. We earn about $250,000 jointly. I am maxing out my 401k, Roth 401k at $26,000. And she splits the money, I guess, between the traditional and the Roth option. My husband is focused on paying down our mortgage. He does not get a match, but he did fund an IRA this year. Okay. We have about $40,000 in cash for emergencies. All right. Julie goes on. I've got $90,000 in brokerage firm taxable account, $900,000 in IRAs. I have a 401k, at her new job, $100,000. Husband has IRA and taxable accounts at about $1 million. The two of them, they got $2 million together. Okay, they want to pay down their mortgage. It's 125 grand at 3.25% before they retire. This will help dramatically with cash flow. All right. I mean, Mark, do I even try to get into this or not? Can I just let this be? I don't think that's the greatest idea, but we'll go on from there because it sounds like you want to do it. Okay. I don't think it's the greatest idea because I like having my liquidity. And right now, you guys have most of your money in retirement funds. So, you're not that liquid in terms of money that's already been taxed. That's one of the reasons that I tend to like to leave the mortgage alone and kind of see how the first 10, 12 years of retirement goes. Okay. But I get it. You want to do it. And you are saying it will help your cash flow. They're going to retire. They're targeting it at age 60. Oh boy, husband's father died at age 74, doesn't want to delay retirement. Okay, Julie says, I just got an offer from my previous employer to buy out my pension, and I have to make a quick decision. I can take a lump sum of $140,000, roll it into an IRA account. I can start taking a pension at a reduced rate of $465 a month, or just do nothing. I would expect to get $1195 a month starting at age 65 if I take a single life option. I'm discussing this with my financial advisor. She's going to get me proposals on annuities. Why? There is some risk that my former employer could have issues with a pension. Oh, they have a pension liability. I like the idea of having an income stream that's separate from my IRA. Okay. Well, okay, so you just answered the question yourself. If there's risk that they're going to have problems with a pension, then I think taking the lump sum makes sense and roll it into your existing IRA account. So that makes sense to me. Okay. The idea of waiting and getting the actual stream of income is a great one, except that if you don't think they're going to actually make good on this, then that's a problem. I do not think that you should do an annuity. Just put the lump sum in your IRA account that's there already. And I don't know why you need the stream of income. I think that depending on what your needs are, you guys are going to have a couple $1,000,000 at retirement. You've got money, and I don't think you want to tie it all up. I think you want to have it. So if you need $80,000 annually to live on, which is what you wrote, back out the amount that you're going to get for Social Security. And then you figure, so I'm going to just ballpark it. Let's just pretend you each get 20 grand in Social Security. It's probably more, but let's just say 20 grand in Social Security. And then you need 40 grand a year from your retirement accounts. You're done. That works. The problem you have is if you're going to retire at 60, okay, you don't have enough money in your accounts to get you from today to your age, your full retirement age. So what I would really look at, and I think you should talk about this with your advisor, who may or may not be an advisor. I'm not sure if they're talking about annuities. Instead of paying down your mortgage, and or maybe even retiring at age 60, I would really start looking at age 62 and I'd be building up my non-retirement assets. That to me is a much more important focus of your energy than paying down the mortgage or even this retirement account. I think you guys are both retiring a little bit early, which I understand if someone has doesn't have longevity in the genes, you want to do it, but you got to put yourself in a position where you're not going to be pulling money out of the wrong accounts at the wrong time. So you need more money. You need more money that's already been taxed, and you need that money liquid. Mark, do you want to add anything, or did I miss anything? I don't really want you to pay down the mortgage, but they're going to do it. You see it in the, I hear it I can read between the lines. But you paying down that mortgage means you don't have access to your money, and you don't have to retire at age 60. He can. Why do you have to? You guys got to work longer. I'm telling you right now. A year, 2 years, it's not going to work. Your numbers will not work as well if you retire at 60. 60 is very young, by the way. Just saying. All right, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you have a financial question, you have a retirement question, you want another set of eyes and maybe two sets of eyes between me and Mark, give us a shout. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you have a question about retirement, maybe you've got a question about taxes, maybe you've got a question about education, your loans, and what you should do, give us a shout. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. That's askjill@jillonmoney.com. Okay, Nina writes, let's see. I've been ambivalent about reaching out, even though I need your assistance. Come on now. I'm here. I'm here for you. Nina says, I am financially illiterate. I don't know where to begin to educate myself. So maybe you can help me with just 3 questions. How would you suggest I begin doing some research or speaking with a financial planner? Suggestions on either? Yes, I have a great suggestion for you. Go to our website, jillonmoney.com, click on the resources tab, and scroll down, and you can see that we have a post that says, need an advisor? Here's 13 questions to ask. Isn't that cool? It's right there. And we embed a lot of different resources for you in there. So that's 1. Okay. 2, I have money awaiting me at the Office of Unclaimed Funds, but because I don't know how to invest it, I've left it there. It was an annuity I inherited. Any suggestions? Huh? What do you mean? You have an annuity that you inherited and it's an unclaimed? Go get it. What the heck are you waiting for? How could you give up free money? That's like delicious. Okay, last. What do you think of a reverse mortgage? Well, I mean, reverse mortgages are very complicated. They can be a very good resource to tap equity in your house, but again, they're complicated. And by the way, they have to be used in a very specific way. They work better for older individuals, and they tend to work better when interest rates are higher. But when they're the only source of funds, it can work. You have to be at least 60, but it's better as you get older. The numbers work better. I need to know more. I feel like you need a lot more than just asking about a reverse mortgage, but we'll talk more when you have more information. Okay. Next, Jennifer writes, that her father is concerned with her current lack of work and retirement funds. And since he's doing well on his, he's helping me start a retirement fund. We're going to see his financial person at our local credit union. I have a savings account at that place, and they're awesome. I'm currently unemployed and have been for years. Dad has a pension. It's already taking Social Security while still working because getting him to stop working will be whenever he wants to. Mom has her own retirement income through Dad's Social Security. So, meaning she claims on his record, they're set from what Dad has told me. I'm 42, still live at home. Dad is being so gracious to help me start this retirement funding while my own income is so low. I was wondering, do you have any suggestions on where to start? Should I pick a target date fund or anything like that that I've heard about in your daily podcast? He thinks a Roth. He asked his advisor to come up with some ideas. I want to walk in with some suggestions of my own, and that's why I'm asking. I know my age. I know at my age that once I do get another job and make some money, I'll be saving a lot until I retire. Okay, so for you, here's what you're going to do. A Roth IRA works, but you have to have earned income. So if you're unemployed, you can't start a Roth. So I like it if you have some earned income. I do like the idea of a Roth. You could basically go in and say at the credit union, start a Roth IRA. I made $2,000 this year, and that's what you're going to be able to put in. It's the lesser of whatever you earn, earned income, not unemployment, earned income, and up to $6,000. Okay. All right. Now, let's say you can't do a Roth. The other thing you can do is make sure that you've got a savings account, and that's great at the credit union. You may want to have enough in that savings account so that you have at least 6 months or a year's worth of your expenses. You didn't mention any debt. If you had debt to pay down, I would do that. And if you don't have earned income, but you still have some money to invest, you can just buy an index fund, and you don't have to do it at the credit union. You could just buy an index fund or a target date fund at any of the big major houses that allow you to do so. And these places are T. Rowe Price, TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, and you can buy an index fund or a target date fund, either one of those. Okay. So, need to know a little bit more about whether or not you have earned income to make this decision. Okay, Jennifer, by the way, ends this by saying, I really appreciate y'all's. I can't even say y'all with a straight face, so I'm going to read it as if I'm her. I really appreciate y'all's daily coronavirus podcast. I've been listening to them while I go running, and I'll put several in a row if I fall behind. The positivity and the calmness from the podcast has been amazing for this weird time we're having. Thank y'all so much for having the podcast and keeping us all calm in these odd times, Jennifer. That's very nice. So, thank you. And thank you for saying that. It means a lot to us. Y'all. I can't even say y'all. By the way, I noticed that a couple weeks ago, trying to describe this season that we're in, autumn, which I'll never say the other word, FALL, because I said it on the air and I sounded so New Yorky when I heard myself. Oh, anyway, happy autumn. You like that better? You're listening to Jill on Money, where your hostess is a born and bred New Yorker, and she can't quite get some of those terms and those accents out of her system. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting from the Capital One Bank virtual studios. Capital One, this is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? And if you've got a financial question, been bugging you a little bit, shoot us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's what Larissa did, who says, I'm trying to get out of debt. My FICO score dropped to 730 from 768. That's not bad. And unfortunately, here it goes on, never late, never behind. I usually do balance transfers at 0%, and now I'm paying interest. Should I apply for a new balance transfer credit card, take out an equity loan? I owe $26,000 in credit card debt. Oh my God, 2 mortgage-free homes. And I'm restoring one to either rent or sell. I'm 79 years old and retired. Wow. Huh. This is a very strange situation. Okay. So the first thing is that, yes, let's use a home equity loan and get rid of these credit card debts. But how did you get into credit card debt? How did this all happen? Because if you get a home equity loan, it's not going to be 0%, but it's going to be pretty low. And you've got to immediately, once you don't rent out this other home, sell it, pay down whatever the equity line is, and get some money in the bank and stop messing around here. It's not good. 79 years old with $26,000 in credit card debt, Mark. Come on. Come on. And you have assets, so there's no excuse. We just need to better manage your assets, really. And if you can do that, it will make you, I think you'll breathe a lot easier. So sell that home, fix it up, sell it, pay down the home equity loan, put some money in the bank, have some, boring stuff. And if I'm missing anything, if there's any other assets that are in your holdings, maybe an IRA or something, let me know. But I'd love for you to have a nice, safe cushion. That will help you, especially as you go into your 80s. Having a cushion is really important. Okay. That's it for hour number 1. Hey, big guests for hour number 2. Good get by us. It is 2 of the founders of Warby Parker. The eyeglasses. I love them. Such great guys. So stay tuned. Our interview with Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal, co-CEOs of Warby Parker, is up next. Stay tuned.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You are back. It is hour number 2 of Jill on Money, and we are delighted that you are joining us. And we've got a real nifty guest, an interview that we conducted before the pandemic. We had a whole bunch of stuff that was in the can, and then all of a sudden the pandemic came and we had to shift pretty quickly. So we had a lot of really great interviews. This one was really one of my faves. It is with the founders, or 2 of the founders, of Warby Parker. Maybe you're familiar with Warby Parker. I have a pair of Warby Parkers myself. Stylish, cool glasses, but not so expensive that it will set you back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So very happy that these guys were able to come in. They are co-CEOs of Warby Parker, Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal. And we start the interview, as we often do, kind of getting a sense of who these guys are themselves. So here is our interview with Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal. So, Neil, what is the best career or financial decision you've made after Warby Parker?
After Warby Parker. The best decision I ever made was marrying my wife, who ended up being an entrepreneur, started her own jewelry line, helped put me through business school, now has a line of children's apparel called Rockets of Awesome. That's all direct-to-consumer online. And
you guys are a power couple. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
It was finding the right partner. Probably one other story would be joining Vision Spring, the nonprofit sort of startup, and taking a risk of moving down to El Salvador to work on a pilot program. I find when I'm speaking to young people, sometimes they underestimate the amount of learning that you can get in an environment where you have a lot of autonomy and independence, where there isn't a lot of structure, and you need to sort of figure out, right, how to have impact. And I use some of the skills that I learned at Vision Spring every day at Warby Parker.
Okay, Dave, best.
Choosing to optimize for learning early on in my career. So after graduating from Berkeley, I was a bioengineering major, didn't know anything about business, and and decided to join Bain & Company, a strategy consulting firm. I knew that I could go there for a couple of years and develop really meaningful skills and still kind of use a lot of the thinking and skill set that I developed early on. And we've also hired a bunch of people out of Bain since that time. And I think it just set up a great foundation for my career, whichever direction it was going to go next.
Let's just start back a little bit of your origin story. So, Dave, why don't you start off and tell us kind of the beginning of what happened for this company? How did it form? Where you guys were in your lives?
Sure. So Neil and I met the first week of business school, along with our two other co-founders, Andy and Jeff. And I'd been working in consulting and finance for a few years and realized I wanted to kind of do something a little more entrepreneurial, something that was going to have a bigger positive impact on the world. Took 6 months off to travel between working and going to school. And along the way, I lost my only pair of glasses. And so,
damn it!
Left them on a plane while I was backpacking. And so I showed up to Wharton, where I was getting my MBA as a full-time student. Didn't have a pair of glasses and was frustrated that I was going to have to pay several $100s to buy a new pair. The pair I'd lost has cost me $700. And I just bought a new iPhone for $200 and just the math didn't make sense to me. And so started complaining to anyone that would listen around, couldn't understand why glasses were so expensive. Andy, their co-founder, couldn't understand why no one was selling glasses online. And we connected with Neil, who had just spent several years running this amazing nonprofit called Vision Spring. Kind of the light bulbs started going off, and the four of us got together, and we ended up bootstrapping the business, taking the money that we had saved from working for a few years, launching out of our apartments while we were full-time students, and starting to build what became Warby Parker. And that was, so we launched in early 2010.
Okay, so Neil, talk about what drove you to attend business school coming out of the nonprofit world.
I felt like the work of the nonprofit sector is equally complex and challenging as the for-profit sector, but often doesn't get the same sort of credibility. So I felt actually that going to business school, I would get an imprimatur, especially from a school like Wharton, that would open up a lot more opportunities for me. And also I realized that I loved leading organizations and managing, and the skills that you learn at business school can, help you to scale and lead organizations in the future.
So I understand you going to business school to get a different skill set. So, Dave, where'd you go?
So I went to Berkeley. I was a bioengineering major. Both my parents are doctors. I was 100% sure I was going to become a doctor. So I took all the pre-med classes, took the MCAT. When I was getting ready to graduate, there were a bunch of changes in the healthcare industry. HMOs were taking over. And just talking to my parents and their friends who are doctors, they didn't seem quite as excited to be practicing physicians, and so thought that there might be a different path where I could learn something about business and then kind of apply those skills to hopefully help make the world better at some point down the road. So
it's interesting, though, because, neither of you sort of came out with like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I'm sure that you get a ton of people who come to you and like, we want to be entrepreneurs like you, but you didn't pre-plan this. Like, you lived your lives, but you didn't micromanage each choice. So I wonder how you deal with this question where people are like, well, I want to be like you and I want to like go to business school and do this. You're unicorns. What would your advice be to younger people who listen to this story, or their parents who hope that they become as successful as you? What's the lesson here? What should they be telling their kids, and what should people be thinking about?
The best businesses solve real problems. And the real problem we were trying to solve is that glasses were too expensive, and the experience of shopping for glasses was suboptimal. And often you can't discover what problems you want to solve until you've actually done some work. There's this perception that entrepreneurs all look like Mark Zuckerberg and, dropped out of school and launched businesses while they were a teenager or in their early 20s. And that just doesn't line up with the actual statistics. And the majority of people that start businesses are in their late 30s and early 40s.
And I think the average CEO right now of all unicorns is actually like 47, something odd, like shockingly higher than you would think. So what is it about your business when you look back on it and you solved a problem. But what were some of the things that there was no way you could have anticipated until you were in it? Like, Dave, what were like, oh my God, this is so much harder than we thought. What were the things you didn't consider?
Yeah, I mean, none of us had ever started a business before. None of us knew how to build a website. None of us came from kind of a formal design background. So everything that we were doing for the first time, and learned a lot of painful lessons early on, particularly around the areas where we didn't have expertise, like how to build a website. Most of us came from backgrounds where we had spent a lot of time in Excel and PowerPoint, and so we're really proficient at that. We didn't know how to make wireframes, and so when we wanted to figure out how to design our site, we designed it in PowerPoint, and we printed out a bunch of PowerPoint slides and had stacks of paper, and we would walk into the local Starbucks and offer to buy people a cup of coffee if they would take a few minutes, and we'd put a page in front of them and say, pretend this is a homepage that you're looking on a computer screen and your hand is the mouse. Where would you click? And then they would kind of point somewhere, and then we'd shuffle the papers and find the next part of the site and put that in front of them. And so, we tried to, in areas that we were deficient, try to find scrappy ways that we could generate learnings, try to solve for either hire or find the capabilities that we didn't have on the team ourselves.
We'll get back to the guys behind Warby Parker in just a minute. If you have a financial question, just give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are broadcasting from the Policy Genius virtual studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. We are in the middle of our interview with two of the founders of Warby Parker, the very cool way to buy glasses. Really, it like kind of upended the entire, or I hate to say disrupted because that's an annoying word, but whatever. It was a new way to buy glasses. This is Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal. We taped this before the pandemic. And this part of the interview, we talk about the original 4 founders and now the 2 founders. Here's more of our interview. You guys had 4 co-founders, essentially, and you 2 are here. What did you do? Knock off the other 2? What's happened to them?
So they're still 2 of our closest friends, Jeff and Andy. Jeff has gone on to start Harry's, the unicorn razor company that's lowering the price of razors for everybody. And Andy went on to start an amazing venture capital fund called Elephant Partners.
Why didn't they join you guys? Are you mean? Are you bad bosses? What did you shut them down?
When we started while we were at business school, we each committed sort of our life savings into it at the time, which was about $30,000. So we started the business with $120,000, and we each committed that we were going to bust our butts working together until graduation. And we set up actually a vesting schedule so that way, if all 4 of us continued to work on it while we were at school, we would all vest and be equal owners at graduation. And the thought there was, hey, there's a million ways that somebody could spend their time. So if somebody wanted to stop working on the business at any point, they could without feeling guilty. Those that continue with the business would continue to earn more equity. At graduation, Jeff actually had committed to go back to the private equity fund he was at before school because they were paying for his school. And Andy was always more passionate about venture investing.
I don't know how you're passionate about that, but okay. Let's talk about the money you raised. So you started bootstrapping yourself. Talk about the fundraising part of it. How hard was that? Was it comfortable? Did someone take lead? Did your private equity guy sort of be like, I know all these people, I'll hook us up? Like, how'd it work?
We felt lucky that we had some savings, that we weren't starting this business right out of college. Each of us had worked for a few years. We'd saved some money, and we were willing to kind of risk all of that to start this business. And we were also terrified of losing other people's money, whether that was our parents, our friends, our professors. And so we felt much more comfortable taking all that risk ourselves. In retrospect, we wish that we'd involved more of our kind of friends and family early on, but at the time, I just felt like the risks were too great. We bootstrapped the business to get to launch, so we Spent about a year and a half from when we first started talking about the idea to when we actually launched the business.
And the business launched in what year again?
In February 2010.
And you guys were done with business school at that point, or you were still in business school?
We were still in business
school.
school.
God,
we were in
amazing.
our second and final year.
Okay, so you finished business school, and then did you go out and raise some moolah?
Well, so we actually didn't raise money for about another year and a half. So we were super scrappy early on. We were able to just kind of fund the business through cash flow that we were generating.
That's awesome.
And the biggest issue that we ran into was that we were growing super quickly and we needed more and more inventory, and we were completely stocked out of inventory. We hit our first year sales targets in 3 weeks, and we had a 20,000 customer waiting list. And,
oh my God.
And to be able to fund that inventory, we realized we needed access to capital. And so we tried looking into kind of some non-dilutive options like small business loans and getting a line of credit, and found that that process was incredibly cumbersome and took way too long, and forced us to put our own kind of assets and personal guarantees in place. And so about a year and a half later, we raised our first seed round, which is a little over $2 million, and tried to include a wide range of technology, fashion, entertainment investors that could be helpful to the business as we scaled.
How many times have you gone out and raised money?
We've now done 5 rounds of funding.
Yeah.
And we've raised about $300 million.
Oh, my God. What's this company worth? Approximately. Give me a range. That's what everyone wants to know. What do you think it's worth? Come on, Neil, get on the spot. Hot light is now pouring. The dude is sweating. You can't even believe it. It's like a Klieg light came down on him. What do you think it's worth?
Probably a few $1 billion.
I'm sitting in a studio with billionaires. So how does that make you feel when you say that number out loud?
It makes me turn red in the face.
Yeah, you totally. By the way, theater of the mind here with our you are beat red right now. Why is that so weird for you?
Again, the best businesses solve real problems, and if you solve customer problems, right, you can build something really big and special. And, you know, if you were to come to our office and see what Dave and I talk about every day, it's not, right, the capital that we've raised. It's not sort of external valuations. It's actually our Net Promoter Score, which is a measure of customer satisfaction. We spend a lot of time talking about our team. Have we set the appropriate org design? Are we hiring people fast enough? Are we managing performance the way that we should? And that's where our mind share is constantly.
You started online, but then you did kind of like that weird thing, which is we started as an online way to get cheaper glasses, and then you opened physical stores. So who led that charge?
When we launched in February 2010, we had deliberately gone out to the fashion press because here we were launching this lifestyle brand. We knew that fashion and design were the most important things to the customers we were targeting, right? How do the glasses look on one's face? We were able to be featured in GQ and Vogue, right? The best men's book, the best women's book. And the company just shot off like a rocket ship. We thought that we were going to have to beg our friends and our parents and our cousins to buy, a couple of glasses that first year. We hit our first year sales targets in 3 weeks, sold out of our top 15 styles in 4 weeks, had a wait list of over 20,000 people. One of the things that we had built into the business was a home try-on program. So if you went to warbyparker.com, you could select 5 frames, and you still can today. We ship you them without a prescription. You select what frame you want. At that point, we put in the prescription and send you a new pair of glasses. We had come up with the idea of the home try-on program because in the work that we were doing pre-launch, we kept getting feedback from our friends. It's like, hey, I don't know if I would buy glasses online. Right? I want to touch and feel them. I want to see how they look on my face. So we thought that, a home try-on would get over that hurdle. The other thing is that we were very committed to customer service and were inspired by, some of the policies of Zappos, for example, which always had free shipping and free returns. And we had learned at that point in time that Zappos had like 40% return rates, and we would never have a viable business with a custom product like glasses if we had return rates that high, because you basically, if someone returns a pair of glasses, you have to trash the lenses. So we had this home try-on program. And within 48 hours of launch, we ran out of inventory because so many people had ordered their home try-ons. And then a funny thing happened where people heard that we were in Philadelphia because we were going to Wharton. And they said, hey, can we come to your office to try on glasses? Like, we can't do a home try-on because you're stocked out, but can we at least come into your office? And we're like, you can come to our apartment.
Yeah, come to our apartment in South Philly. We'll go to the Bullmore and have fun after that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Literally, we said, what the hell? We had 5 people come in. We wanted to limit it to 5 people so if this was such an awkward experience that we would only destroy the brand's reputation with 5 people.
I think Philadelphia had the second highest murder rate in the country at the time, and we were also inviting all these strangers into our homes. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
We, moved the dining room table, put the glasses across it, moved a mirror. We took out our laptops. So if people selected a pair of glasses, they would literally check out on our website. And the first 5 people came in. They were definitely confused because they saw us there. They saw some of the first folks that we hired scrunched on our couch, typing away, processing orders and responding to customer emails. But it was this pretty special experience because how often do you get to peek behind the curtain of a startup? And we remember vividly that there was one person who was in scrubs. They were a resident at the hospital at the University of Pennsylvania. They bought a pair of glasses, and then literally over the next week, we saw 15 more orders come in with email addresses from the hospital at the University of Pennsylvania. So we thought this is a great way to also acquire new
Absolutely.
customers.
That is so cool.
We'll get back to our interview with the co-CEOs of Warby Parker, Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal, in just a second. Hey, why don't you do this during the break? Head on over to JillOnMoney.com and just bookmark it. All the stuff is there for you whenever you need it. JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life, but also tries to give you some unconventional or entertaining interviews to chew on, get you thinking. In this interview that we are doing this hour, we are broadcasting in a conversation that I had with 2 of the founders of Warby Parker, co-CEOs Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal. First couple of segments, we were kind of finding out what their story was and the story of the company. And now we're going to shift a little bit into the where they are now with Warby Parker, what's happening, how they've used physical stores to expand. It's always interesting when you see a company that starts as an online mostly and then goes and opens a physical store, kind of like it's a little bit of an Apple model, like the retail store experience. It is cool. I encourage you to check out a Warby Parker store if there's one near you. Anyway, here is more of our interview with Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal.
So how many physical outlets do you have now? 90, 100, something like that?
115.
115. Do you have like a site location person who does all that work for you guys?
We have a real estate team. We also often leverage our data science team. The beauty of being an e-commerce company is that we know where our customers are. So what was interesting is, we started selling out of our apartment. Then when we moved into a proper office after graduation, we moved back to New York. We deliberately moved into an office that was in Union Square, so a place with good access, with public transportation. It was a loft space with southern-facing windows with good light. We allocated about a third of the office to be a showroom, a store, and we just started selling lots of glasses. And eventually we moved our office to Soho. We were on track to do over $3 million of sales out of our office. So we figured if we're doing this in an office in Soho, what if we just open up a store nearby? We'll probably do at least that. And then we also built a mobile store. We bought an old yellow school bus. We ripped out all the benching and the chairs. We put in oak shelving, and we went to about 15 cities. And in each city, we were in about 3 locations. So we knew which intersections performed well. So we had basically a roadmap of where to open up stores. We married that with some of our customer data, and we now have sort of a model where we can punch in any address in the U.S. and get a sales range with a confidence interval.
Dave, you guys are co-CEOs, but you obviously have different areas of responsibility. So how does it break down between the two of you?
We really split up the company. I think each of us have 7 or 8 direct reports. Operates more functionally as a Venn diagram where, example, physical retail stores report into Neil, but I'm on our real estate committee, and so it's still involved in kind of looking at every new store that we're opening, and technology reports into me. But if we're making any big tech decision, Neil is providing as much input as I am into those decisions. And so it allows us to divide and conquer on kind of day-to-day things, but then I think we get the benefit of having kind of 2 brains instead of 1 for major decisions across the business.
You come of age in a different time where it seems to me that more of your cohorts are interested in community as well as the people who work for you and also making sure the company does well. I wonder from your perspective, I know you started with, you came from the nonprofit world. You started with this premise about giving away a pair of glasses. So can you talk a little bit about the journey of how that really was sort of one of your leading messaging points? Now you still do it, but it doesn't seem to be front and center.
Yeah, so when we were starting the business, we often would discuss, hey, what's going to keep us excited to go to work every single morning and not roll over and hit the snooze button? And it was about having, big positive impact. And we thought, well, what's one way to do that? Well, there's hundreds of millions of people on the planet that don't have glasses, and how are we failing as a species when a product and technology that's been around 800 years is not widely available to everybody? So even though we thought it was an inherent good to bring down the price of glasses from $500 to $95, right, we want to serve those hundreds of millions of people that couldn't afford $95. So we first thought, oh, well, why don't we commit a % of revenue or profits? We thought, hey, at the end of the day, that is good and positive, but the outcome that we're looking for is glasses on people's faces so that way they can, fulfill their potential at work, at school. And we also thought if for some reason we weren't running the company, like a % of revenue, a % of profits could maybe be manipulated a little bit. So we wanted to make a bold commitment that was also tied to the brand to give away a pair for every pair that we've sold. We've now distributed over 5 million pairs of glasses to people around the world and in the United States. That's sort of what we probably talk most about from a social mission perspective, but we try and run the business by considering all stakeholders. So how does a decision impact our customers, our employees, the environment, the community at large? And we also think that that's not mutually exclusive with creating shareholder value.
Right.
If you want to create shareholder value, right, you have to make customers happy. To make customers happy, you have to hire the best and the brightest. So you have to have happy employees. Where do employees want to work? They want to work at mission-driven organizations.
It's interesting to me that you don't have this growth at any cost mindset. What do you want to happen next? What are areas that you're not involved in now in this business that is on your wish list? What do you want to happen?
So there are a few things that we're really excited about. One is that we just launched our own brand of contact lenses, Scout. As we think about what are adjacencies to prescription glasses and sunglasses that can help us provide a more holistic customer experience. It's contact lenses, it's eye exams, right? We have well over 100 stores at this point. Pretty much all of our new stores, we've been building exam suites and pre-screening rooms. This year, we'll have tripled the number of optometrists that we have on staff. And if you look at eye exams and contact lenses, that's over an $11 billion total addressable market in the U.S. So it's a massive opportunity for us financially, but more importantly is that this allows us to provide just better customer experiences.
Okay, we'll get back to our interview with the masterminds behind Warby Parker. Hey, during the break, hop on to JillOnMoney.com, and while you're there, you can subscribe to our sister broadcast. It is called Jill on Money. It's called a podcast. How about that? And we have links to where you can get it, or maybe if you're just listening, go to Apple, go to Stitcher, go to Spotify, go to radio.com, whatever, and just subscribe. Jill on Money. That's the podcast. Okay, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It is Jill on Money. And as we begin this weirdo holiday season, I know a lot of you are missing the physical, the in-store experience, even though some of those experiences are pretty rotten, but some are so cool. You know, I remember I did a segment a couple of years back about, I think it was Patagonia. It was either Patagonia or REI, where they built an igloo in the store, and you could try parkas and boots on in sub-zero temperatures to see how warm they were. Like, that is a cool in-store experience. You know what's not a cool in-store experience? Basically walking through any department store in America, even the high-end ones. It's not fun. It just isn't. And, you know, I love Saks. I really do. I love Saks in New York, but going in there, what a hassle. So anyway, we are continuing our interview with the co-CEOs of Warby Parker. And in this end of the interview, we're going to conclude it with a discussion about their physical stores, how they design them, how they lay them out, and really what they are doing differently to bring a customer experience of buying glasses, buying contacts now and other things to a different level. And I think it's really interesting. So I hope you enjoy this. Again, we conducted this interview before the pandemic. That's why there's no mention of it, and we don't talk about masking up in their stores. Here is the conclusion of our interview with Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal, the co-CEOs of Warby Parker.
When I walked into the store, I saw people that had iPads, and I saw a lot of people in there, and I saw the exams that were happening, and it seemed it was bustling. The other thing I saw in the store were books. How did this come about? When did you start putting books in your physical stores, or was that always the case?
Yeah, so it's really been a core part of the brand identity since day one. There's such a tie between glasses and reading and learning. And the name Warby Parker actually comes from two early Jack Kerouac characters. So it took us 6 months to come up with a name that we all really liked. At the time we were launching the business, there were some other sites that were selling glasses online. They had names like $39glasses.com and iBuyDirect.com. And we wanted a proper name to connote the fact that we were launching a fashion brand and doing something different. And we didn't think Gilboa Blumenthal really rolled off the tongue.
It doesn't. I mean, it works for your marriage, but otherwise, no.
And so we spent a lot of time talking about artists or authors that represented the brand ideals that we were trying to create, including the Beat Generation writers and Jack Kerouac. And coincidentally, the New York Public Library had an exhibit on Kerouac's private journals. And so went up to that exhibit, and he'd written about these characters with really interesting names. And the two that jumped out were Warby Pepper and Zag Parker. And we loved those names and decided to combine the two and make it our own. And since that time, as we were kind of building out the brand identity and architecture, have really incorporated literature and books into kind of every aspect of the brand.
I want to point out what you're missing in those stores in terms of a book. A financial book. And you know what? Miraculously, I've written one. So I just want to pitch myself right here. I've got the decision makers here. So if you would like a copy of The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money in your actual Warby Parker physical locations, I would be delighted to do something around that. I just want to put it out there.
Great.
Yeah. You know what? He's like, why am I in the studio right now? Can this end anytime soon? Neil, what's your worst financial decision? What did you do? Did you buy something at the top or do something dopey?
When I was 8 years old, I bought a food dehydrator thinking that I was going to sell dried fruits on the streets of New York, which
that's
didn't really
a very
work out.
Jewish thing to do. I just want to point that out. Everyone needs apricots. Don't they? Not in a shiva, but in every day. That's when you need it. What about you, Dave?
So I went to Berkeley, and so right in the heart of Silicon Valley, and I was a freshman in 1999. So kind of showed up, and it seemed like everyone that was investing in anything was just printing money and set up a E-Trade account, and I didn't really have any money, but it was pretty easy to kind of set up a margin account where I could just borrow money, and I didn't really understand that probably would have to pay that back if things
Quick
didn't work
lesson.
out. And then the bubble burst, and quickly realized that I probably shouldn't be investing things. I had no idea what the companies actually did.
Well, thanks again to Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal from Warby Parker. Really interesting guys. And I have to say, it's so enlightening to meet with people who didn't start their lives saying, I would like to be an entrepreneur. They just tried to solve a problem. That's kind of cool. Anyway, let's just finish up this segment with one of your questions. This is from Timothy, who says he heard the interview that we conducted with the trust and estate attorney last week. And so here we go. He says, my wife's parents just finished creating a trust document with my wife and her brother as co-trustees in the event of their passing. We've read the trust and we kind of struggle to understand the legal gibberish. Should we hire our own attorneys to review the trust doc and answer our questions, or direct our questions to the firm that drafted the trust? Thanks in advance, Tim. Tim, just do it to the guys who drafted the trust. I mean, there's nothing here that should be so foreign. And it is, I know it's complete gibberish. You know, there are certain ways that lawyers have to write these documents, but the reality is they should be able to answer any of your questions. What I suggest is make a list of the questions that you have, or highlight the document, or flag it with Post-its, and then just go through it nice and easy. Just say, oh, we have some questions, and they should be able to help you out. Really smart of you to ask those questions, because it is a big responsibility, and it's good to really understand the why behind all that gobbledygook legalese. Okay? You are listening to Jill on Money, and if you have a question, maybe it's an estate question, maybe it's a retirement question, maybe it's a student loan question, or an education question, shoot us an email. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Okay, we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting from the Policy Genius Virtual Studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. All right, before we finish up the show, let's get to an email. And this is from Rick, who writes, I know revocable living trusts should be handled by a lawyer, but are do-it-yourself wills, power of attorney, and healthcare directives legitimate and easily done? If so, would you recommend a specific website for these important documents? Okay, Rick, my spiel on this is as follows. Yes, of course, you can do it yourself with a will, a power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. In fact, I just did the intro and said that we're sponsored this hour by Policy Genius. Policy Genius actually now has a pretty darn good estate planning tool. But how much money do you have? Is it possible that we could get you to a lawyer? Do you have a complicated life? I mean, the one good thing is that Policy Genius's tool will direct you to a lawyer if it seems that things are too complicated. I really want to encourage people to use attorneys if things are a little bit more complicated, or if there is some issue with leaving money to kids or some other place. But just be careful, okay? In general, I really do like dealing with lawyers. I know it can be sort of annoying. On the other hand, it is the most important thing you're probably going to do while you're alive, which is make big decisions about who gets what, make big decisions about how you want the end of your life managed and what kind of care you'd want, and giving someone the power to make a financial decision on your behalf if you can't make it. Yes, you can use the tool, but if you hit a brick wall in any way, or even a tiny, forget about a brick wall. If you hit a little bit of a snag, go see a lawyer, please. Really. All right, that is it. That is the show. I want to thank every one of you for listening. And as always, I just have to say that we want you to be careful out there, to wash your hands, to wear your masks, to maintain that physical distancing and try to do something nice for somebody else today. It will make a difference to that person, and it will make a difference to you. We've got to be a little bit nicer to each other. Just do it, okay? Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.